This time, the initial cost in Rio Prefecture is 8,500 yen. We're going to feature a former department store commercial facility that was built with that amount. It's called Minara. It's a 7-story commercial facility. Because it opened in 1989 during the bubble era, they had plenty of money to spend. They were able to invest 850 yen per department store, but that's just unthinkable in this day and age. In the department store era, there was a revolving restaurant on the top floor that slowly rotated. You could enjoy a full 360-degree view of the scenery. Sogo department store closed down afterward. It became a commercial facility called Minara, but remnants of the department store era remain throughout. In this video, I will talk about that. I'll share the remaining traces of the department store era in Minara, along with related rumors, on-site footage, and my impressions from my visit. Also, on this channel, I will continue to create many videos that everyone can enjoy, so please be sure to subscribe. Thank you. So here I am at Shinomiya Station on the Kintetsu Nara line. I've come to a place like this. I think many of you have never heard of it, and this is actually my first time getting off at this station too. It's located next to Kintetsu Nara Station, which is the center of Nara. If you walk about 15 minutes from here, you'll arrive at Mihara. It's a bit far from the station, but ever since it first opened as a full-scale department store, it's been accessible by car. It seems that as a suburban luxury department store, it targeted residents of Nara Prefecture, southern Kyoto Prefecture, and western Mie Prefecture, so they didn't put much emphasis on customers coming by train. That said, the nearby Kintetsu Nara Station and Nara Station are close by. And for people coming from the nearest station, Shinomiya Station, there's a shuttle bus available. Especially from Shinomiya Station, the bus runs every 20 minutes, so I think that's a pretty frequent schedule, but since I like walking, I choose not to take the bus and walk instead. Well, that's actually a lie. I was planning to use a car share near the station and drive to Minara, but there were no cars available in the car share. So I'm just going to walk all the way there, especially since it's my first time coming here. A 15-minute walk isn't a problem for me. I actually enjoyed it. On the way, there's the Yoshi City Hall. If you go straight down a road that's relatively busy with both cars and people, you'll clearly see Minara coming into view. It has the dignity of a former department store. What I want you to pay attention to is the entrance area. It was so beautiful I had to laugh. It was just so cool. If you look closely at the pot part, you can see how much care was put into it. It's amazing. And now, let's go inside. This is the entrance lobby, but isn't it just incredible? I've been amazed ever since I arrived. There was a floor map at the entrance, but I'm mainly interested in the living creatures on the 4th floor. There's a museum and a goldfish museum. The Goldfish Museum in particular is very popular and is often featured on Instagram as a recommended spot by Rio. Now let's go through the entrance and head into the 1st floor of the store. The moment you step inside, there's water with goldfish in it, but to put it bluntly, it's just goldfish. In the museum's advertisement, the current defining feature of this Minara is pretty much the goldfish. It's stylish. I wanted to go too, but well, I was too embarrassed to go in alone, so I couldn't go. I hope to go someday. Beyond that, there's a food court, and even though it was a weekday, it was crowded with many people. There are also pet shops, clothing stores, and supermarkets. There are various tenants, but anyway, this 1st floor is really lively. As I walk through this 1st floor, let me briefly introduce the overview of this facility. Minara opened in April 2018. By the way, the Mayan Minara has 6 meanings: beautiful, see, fruitful, taste, future, and everyone together. Before Minara opened, the place that operated here was the So department store, which I introduced as a classic, and then the So department store closed. Then Fuji Okamichi opened here. First, the theory about the So department store. The So department store, which opened here in October 1989, was the only department store besides Kintetsu department store to open in Ryokan. I mentioned that it was built at a cost of $850 million, but among the many department stores with luxurious interiors, this one was especially glamorous. To your right is the Lopia Supermarket's food section and its atrium. It seems that a golden monument modeled after Hujime was installed in this area. Not only was it golden color, but they actually used gold leaf, spending a huge amount of money to set it up. The bubble era was really something. In the Reiwa era, this would never happen. By the way, now it's been completely removed without a trace, and of course I can't go inside the tenant space to film the site. I haven't been able to do that, and it's because of such extravagant interior decorations. Despite the initial investment of 850 yen, they started the business with a first-year sales target of 350 yen. I'm curious how many years they planned for investment recovery. However, the initial exhibition plan was much grander. The building that actually opened was 7 stories above ground, but the original plan was for 2 basement floors and 11 stories above ground. In addition to that, there was even a plan to expand the building by the fall of 1993, 4 years after its opening. They planned to build an annex in the parking lot across from the entrance I used earlier. The plan was to use the basement and first floor as sales areas, and to use the second floor and above as a multi-story parking lot by expanding the building. At that time, it was said that they aimed to become one of the largest department stores in the Kansai region. The reason they put so much effort into a department store in a local city like Yoshi rather than in Osaka was because people from nearby areas would go to Osaka or Kyoto. They wanted to attract people who might shop in Osaka or Kyoto instead. When you think of the department stores, you think of Deppa. You probably imagine something like a basement, but I'll explain later why they didn't build an underground shopping area. So that's the end of the first floor introduction. Let's move on to the second floor. I'm thinking of going up, and surprisingly, there's an escalator that can take you up 3 floors. It made sense in the department store days, but now it seems unnecessary. Still, it's impressive that all the escalators are running. When I reached the second floor, all 6 escalators, 3 up, 3 down, were running simultaneously. It's absolutely overwhelming. As expected of a former department store, I could watch this forever. Right next to the escalator, there's a map of the second floor. There aren't any empty tenant spaces or anything like that. They're all filled. As you walk around, you'll find surprisingly large rest areas. As a former department store, the space is vast and used boldly. The hallways are wide and easy to navigate, and the shops are also very spacious. The products were arranged with plenty of space. However, compared to the crowded first floor, there were a lot fewer people just by going up to the second floor. It's easier to walk and film, which I personally like, but it does make me a bit worried. Still, since there aren't many essential shops for daily life on the second floor, it might get crowded on weekends. By the way, Sogo operated in this location for about 10 years after opening, but went bankrupt in 2000. Some stores stayed open after the bankruptcy. Because of that, Sugano's miso cost 850 yen. The initial stock was extremely limited. Because it was located about a 15-minute walk from the station, it was judged that recovery would be difficult, so they gave up on continuing business and closed the store. That's what happened next. Toyokadu was going to open next, but for now, let's go to the third floor. Looking at the third floor map, I personally found it really strange that Toys R Us was located right in the middle of the floor. It's a smaller Toys R Us compared to other stores, but even so, it's by no means a small store. I'm really impressed by the bold use of space. In this area, there are also a 100 yen shop, a bookstore, and Nishimatsuya. Since there are places like that, there were more people here than on the second floor. Now, as I walk around the third floor, let's get back to talking about the opening of Toyokadu. After Soso closed, at the end of 2000 actually, Mitsukoshi Department Store and Otsuka Furniture jointly opened stores in this building. However, in 2001 they announced they would drop the new store plan. Although there were several moves to expand into the area, all of them ended up being abandoned. 3 years after the closure, in July 2003, Toyokadu Rio 10 opened. It opened. At that time, it was the largest Toyokadu store. Because competition among commercial facilities here is increasing, Toyokadu also closed in 2017, and after that, Minara opened and continues to this day. So since it became Minara, the creature that has attracted the most attention, we're heading to the fourth floor, where the museum and the Goldfish Museum are located. Besides these two museums, there's also Fram Up here. Large stores like Ideon and Shimamuragaki are gathered here. For some reason, there's a climbing wall next to the escalator. You can't tell in this situation, but actually, back in the Sogo department store days, there was a mechanical clock and a world doll clock here. These mechanical displays were installed in many places and were considered a specialty of Sogo. During the department store era, this fourth floor was named the town where you can see the clock, because of the clock. This climbing wall also has an odd shape, but on the back side, they say the clock might still be there, or maybe not. But if it wasn't, there wouldn't be such a strange shape, so the clock is still there now. I think that theory is very likely. The fourth floor has wider hallways and a large rest area compared to the other floors. That's great. Since it's a weekday afternoon, few people are around at both the aquarium and museum. I was just making a comparison. But it looks like a lot of fun, and I really want to go, but I'll go alone. I didn't have the courage. Since there were goldfish pictures all over the floor, I'll just force myself to be satisfied with this. Some of the escalators going up to the fifth floor were stopped, but I'll try going up. There's a shutter all of a sudden, but it's not like the tenants on this floor are vacant. Most of this floor is occupied by round one, and it even seems to have spotcha, so it looks like a pretty big round one. I think most of the other tenants are related to Ryushi. First of all, there's the Ryushi Art Museum. It's unusual to have an art museum inside a commercial facility, but it's something that's been here since the department store days. So it's a comprehensive Ryushi feature. It existed as an art museum. Well, having an art museum in a department store is something I can almost accept, but not quite. The others are the Rio Culture Center, and as always, the familiar Baka. There were chairs placed in the wide corridor. The art museum has been here since the building was built about 30 years ago, yet it still looks spotless. I think the reason it doesn't feel old at all is because a lot of marble is used and it's been well taken care of. Today people were at the reception for an event, so I couldn't take proper photos. I'm also sure this spot was used for events back when it was a department store. That's what I think. The space is amazing. Because to reach round one, you have to enter through what feels like a back entrance. Is this actually a legitimate passageway? It seems like an employee-only corridor. I grew suspicious but kept walking and eventually arrived. Water and Goldfish were in front of the round one entrance. Well, if I just walk around round one, it'll end up being just an introduction like, here are the crane games and here are the photo booths, so let's stop here. If you go to the upper floor, you can see the site of the restaurant that used to be operated during the Sogo era, but now there's a barbecue area and round one's spocha, so you know. It doesn't seem like a place you can easily go to, so I'll give up and go to the first floor to look from below. This elevator is a see-through elevator. There are a lot of Christmas decorations, but putting that aside, if you look outside, there's a parking lot here. where they plan to build an annex and multi-story garage. Come to think of it, I noticed when I was making the video that the elevator halls in this shopping center are all covered in marble on every floor. That's pretty crazy. Now let's go outside and look up. This is the open-air observation restaurant that just opened. The round area used to have a Chinese restaurant as a tenant during the Sioux era. The open-air observation restaurant's floor rotates, as the name suggests. This rotating observation restaurant was also found in other Sioux stores. When Sioux closed, the Chinese restaurant became Toyo Kadu and began displaying paintings. It was used as a gallery or as an observation deck, and after it became Minara, it was unexpectedly converted into a small hotel. However, due to a drop in guests during the pandemic, it closed and has remained vacant since then. The curtains from the hotel days are still there. It seems like it has been left untouched ever since it closed. I think it would be a waste to just leave it like this, so I really hope it gets reused for something. Since it was remodeled into a hotel, I think it will be difficult to reuse it as it is. But since it was originally aimed at young people, since there are already places like a museum and a Round One barbecue facility, I personally think it would be good if another tenant targeting young people moved in. Now, about where Minara is built, this land was once home to Prince Nagaya, a noble from the Nara period. At the time of the initial development plan, this wasn't known, and it was only during the excavation survey before the opening that they discovered it was the site of the residence. About 50,000 wooden tablets were found. A marker at Minara's entrance shows this was Prince Nagaya's main gate. An object has been placed there. There were voices calling for it to be preserved as something of historical value, but those objections were overruled. After my ancestor opened the store, the Toyo Kadu that opened afterward also ended up closing due to poor business. Because of this, some local people have even called it the curse of Nagaya-u. By the way, when you search for Minara, curse appears in predictive search. That must be unsettling for those just seeking information about the shopping facility. During store planning, 2 basement floors were intended, but since it was Nagaya Daitei's site, the underground levels were never built. When you think of department stores, you might picture basement food floors, but here, clothing, cosmetics, and food were all on the first above-ground floor. It seems like it was a chaotic situation, but people came from all sorts of places and it was lively and vibrant. Unlike the department store era, it's now more like a living thing. Except for the museum and the Goldfish Museum, most of the visitors are local residents. It's become a typical commercial facility, but personally, just walking around is enjoyable. It was once a commercial facility and I was too nervous to enter the museum, but I want to visit next time. I'm excited to see how this place develops. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving it a like. See you in the next video.